So now I'm going to demonstrate how we can use the power bands to start training various different squat patterns. Power bands are a fantastic tool because it helps us increase the load in the frontal plane as well as in the up and down direction. I've got the yellow 41-inch band here again, as I've used previously for doing the lateral crab walks. So again, we can cross the band up, holding in this position here, ensuring that our posture is nice and upright, shoulders are back, just getting the client to practice their squatting movement through here. So what the client will notice is that they come down, there is less resistance and there's more working muscles as they're having to come back up. They're having to work a little bit harder as they come up to the top and working up. So the important thing again with all sort of squat patterns is that we're not always driving knees too far forward, rather we're sitting back in onto our bottom there, as if we're sitting back onto a chair, and we're wanting to use our glutes to drive that movement, coming back up. Again, this exercise can be increased in terms of the load being sort of required to be pushed by using different bands. So we've got the orange band here, which is our next level up. Again, same activity, same exercise, just again, they're going to be getting a little bit more harder work as they're coming to come back up out of that position there. And the nice thing about the power band is that we're not having to invest a lot of money into various dumbbell sets and a whole bunch of equipment. 2 bands and some add-ons, we can do a lot of exercises. So now I'm going to show you how we can use 2 bands to incorporate and perform a squat. So you're wanting to cross one, stand on one band. We're wanting to cross that up and under. So it's across one shoulder like that. We're getting the other band, coming back, crossing up, coming under. And now this time we're working with our bands across both shoulders, so we're getting even distribution of weight or pull down. And again, the client will find that this is more challenging as they're coming back up out of the squat because we've got the increased resistance from the band. So starting in this position, again, ensuring good technique, good position, and just squatting down. Up and down. I'll show you from the side what we're doing here with the band, and sitting back, and really pushing that bottom back to drive into that movement when we're doing that squat pattern there. So again, we can increase the difficulty of this exercise by using dumbbells or using a medicine ball, and so having to hang on to into this position here when we're doing a squat. So another great bunch of exercises that we can perform to train functional movement patterns using the power bands. So now I've got the power bands across me again. In this diagonal position here, we can use the power bands to train the body with a lunge movement pattern in that frontal plane. So bands are stepping here. I've got the yellow bands again, nice quite light resistance here. The client's going to find it more challenging as they come back up and explode out of the bottom range of the lunge movement. So stepping across, coming back up, across and back up. And we could be working different planes of movement in that frontal plane. In the frontal plane, there. And again, we can use medicine ball, we can use dumbbells, having to hold on to these weights here in order to perform the different lunge positions. So how can we vary up the squat pattern when we've got the diagonal bands in this position? We can change our foot positioning. So rather than the traditional or conventional sort of squat pattern where we have feet at shoulder width apart, we can play around with our positioning of the feet. So apart from doing your conventional squat pattern, we can do a narrow foot squat pattern. We can do a nice wide squat pattern. We can externally or internally rotate the feet positions here, adopting the more sumo squat stance, dropping down. We can internally rotate the feet. Again, we're proprioceptively feeding the hip and the lower limb very differently by changing the foot position. We can do a split squat stance in this position and then in the opposite direction there. I've now got the single band for doing more squat patterns again. I'm going to show you how we can vary that up. So we can, if we want, hands here. Now this will greatly depend on how strong the band is. You don't want to choose a band that is so strong that it's going to limit the amount of movement or affect the quality of the actual movement pattern that we're performing. Yet choose a band that the client can probably do relatively easy and perform good repetitions up to about 10 for that set, or that working set anyway. So we can get band up, above head this time in this position here, and we can do an overhead squat coming back up. Really trying to focus on pushing that bottom down and back as we come back into that position there. So again, the bands allow for a great variety of different exercises that we can perform, and unlike, say, the more traditional movement patterns that we might be doing as we're coming back in this position here, we're using the bands to increase the load as a variable rather than always having perhaps a barbell on our back or dumbbells in our hands and that sort of stuff.